people don't know there is a real direction. That's the problem. And they don't know there is an authority that actually outlines that direction very clearly and like almost gives you the map to follow step by step with guaranteed success at the ultimate perfect destination. But it's too simple. It's too easy.
Hey there, and happy to have you listening in. This is Ruben, and Breaking Trail is where you learn to navigate life's journey through ancient wisdom, through my conversation with my friend and teacher, Balakhilya. Today's talk will be about the root cause of stress and how we can actually deal with that in the long term for a better and happier life. So, welcome.
You know, that shirt you got on, you could make the same one, Love Your Mother, and put a cowl there.
That's true. Yeah. That'd be a nice shirt.
Or put Love Your Mothers and have the earth and then a cowl on the earth, like superimposed on the earth.
Yeah.
Your mothers.
That would be a very nice shirt. Oh. Yeah. That's something we don't do in today's world, something that people don't understand. Maybe this thread would be good for a talk about the root cause of environmental crisis.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah. The jacket is on its way, by the way, and I'm really, really excited.
Which one?
The micro one.
Oh, micro.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Let me know what you think.
I will, for sure.
I'm doing a survey.
You are.
So when we talk about gear, we'll have the complete picture.
That's the thing. So if anyone, I don't know if I'm gonna, but if we do include this part and anyone is hearing, then if you have any questions about vegan, vegetarian, environmental clothes, then you can always speak to me in Balakhilya, because we're kind of experts on that field.
We're trial and error researchers.
Right. Empirical researchers.
That's right.
You've had more years into that experience than I do, but I do have some years of experience. As always.
Yeah, I bought my first Gore-Tex jacket in '84.
Ah.
Sent it back to North Face in 96 or 7 and got a new one to replace it.
12 years? And then they replaced it. Wow.
And then they replaced it, yeah. That was when the warranties really were real.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, how long did you have it after that?
The next one? The second one?
No, the second one, the one that they replaced it with.
Yeah. Oh, I had that one 2 or 3 years, and I sent it back. I got about 4 jackets out of that one jacket.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some similar experience. I had an outdoor research jacket, I think it was. Yeah, and I've just kept changing it, I think 3 times now or something. But the thing is, the same problem is there, so I don't understand why they just fixed that problem. Like the inner membrane keeps falling off, and the white,
I know. That's what happens a lot on those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Those 2-layer jackets, they just delaminate completely.
Exactly. So why not just make things that last, and that's really, for the environment, that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's the better it gets, the worse it gets. You know what I mean? It's lighter, it's, more maybe environmentally friendly and so on, but it doesn't last.
Yeah.
It just falls apart. So you got to replace it much more often. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just proves that we're not always going in the right direction when we're, if we don't know, and if we don't have a higher goal, if we don't know where we should be going, we're sort of, society as a whole cannot move in the right direction because we have no direction. We just know how to progress, but we don't know where to progress.
That's right. Yeah. Full speed ahead to somewhere, but we don't know where.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, that's
someone
right.
compared it to it's like a farmer. The farmer is just like growing his fertilizers, growing, he's putting fertilizer, growing in the field, he's putting fertilizers on, and he's doing everything he can to grow these plants. And when he gets asked the question, what are you growing? He says, well, I don't know. I'm just growing like hell. I'm just going to grow this, grow it.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, misdirected energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people don't know there is a real direction. That's the problem.
Mm. Yeah.
And they don't know there is an authority that actually outlines that direction very clearly and like almost gives you the map to follow step by step with guaranteed success at the ultimate perfect destination. But it's too simple. It's too easy. Let's just figure it out.
No. But that's at the same time, people want answers. Like people seem to be, for example, now in Norway, there's this service set up by the government and some other companies associated with the government sort of thing. They've made like a fact checkers website so that they give you the simple truth as it is, according to their version, of course, because people they're confused and there's so much information. So they just want like a simple way to know the truth from one authority. But at the same time, like, why can't they accept the Vedic authority or the higher authority?
Yeah.
Or
because it deals with a more, I would say, inner deep subject. People like to live on the surface. They don't like to go deeper. So they just want surface information. They don't want to know anything about the depths of the ocean.
Yeah. But that's a good comparison. But then, and that's what we're going to speak today, is actually us being on the ocean. And when we're on the ocean in the waves, we go up and we go down, and life is tough on the surface,
Yeah,
while in the depth, it's calm, smooth.
Here's an example of that. Do you remember in 2007 when that big tsunami hit Indonesia and parts of India and all that area over there?
Yeah.
Those little islands, Sumatra and all that.
Sure. And it's,
Thailand, etc.
In that tsunami, out of the countries that were indirectly influenced, Sweden was the country that was most influenced. Like, out of the countries that were not directly hit by the tsunami, because we have so many Swedish people going there and living there, and in Thailand.
Oh, you mean the Swedish population in that part of the world was affected?
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Like the Swedes were affected more than any other country that was indirectly affected was Sweden, because the Swedes that were living there, or that had relatives there, or that had moved there, or they were traveling there, or were,
Right. So anyway, it was a big catastrophe, and people got killed, and property destroyed, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I read that when that tsunami was coming toward that whole area, there were some guys scuba diving quite a ways offshore, and they were deep. They were, I don't remember the depth, but 100 feet or 200 feet down, whatever it was, but they were deep. So anyway, they don't know anything about this, right? So this tsunami comes through, and they felt just some little, like, kind of just a small little blip as they're down and go, and it was, wow, I wonder what that was, So anyway, they finish their dive and they come up and get in their dive boat and go back to shore. And of course, there they found that whole devastation had taken place.
Wow.
And they were saying, wow, all that took place here, and we just felt just some little blip, and that was all. So it just shows if you go deep, these big tsunamis of life that come through, if you're deep in your life, then it's just a little blip on the radar kind of thing, and then it's just done. And other people, it just destroys their life completely.
Yeah. We just had a huge tsunami come by the whole world.
Yeah, And it's not the first nor the last. It's coming all the time. And another crazy one was when they had that nuclear disaster in Japan. Fukushima. And I saw a video, and that was caused by an earthquake, which caused a phenomenon, tsunami, which destroyed the nuclear power plant and so on. And so I saw things were flooding and everything was being, torn up. And I saw these two guys, and people had been told to evacuate, and people were getting away from the ocean area and so on. And I saw these two guys struggling to carry this huge television set. And they were down by the lowland, and they were going up these steps trying to get to higher ground. But they had this huge television set, and they're both struggling with it going up these steps. And this big wave came in and just smashed them and took them out to sea.
Oh, no.
So
try to hold on to
that television set, man, and it cost them their life,
Like that was the most important thing in there. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So it was, and I saw the video. I mean, it was insane. You could just watch them, the whole scenario. And it just relates back to the whole thing. Here's my treasure. Here's my pleasure. We must protect it. We must, hold on to it. And that's the way people see life. This is my pleasure, my treasure is this world and my possessions and my, success and my attachments to whatever. Obviously, there was some attachment to that television.
Huge.
Huge television, huge attachment.
Yeah, the old ones.
So all this is contradictory to our well-being. And it's obvious. It's not like just some theory and nobody can prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just obvious that this is real. This is true.
Yeah.
And we suffer because of it. It's like unbelievable. But you give people the real solution, and like you were just saying with the, give me the simple answer. Well, here's the simplest and the only answer, really. This Vedic knowledge, this absolute truth, and people turn the channel on the big television.
Switch off. No.
Yeah. Click in, click out.
But we are so, and that's interesting. Why do we choose to be in anxiety and uncomfortable and be on the waves? And we're feeling the consequences of being in the waves. Why not instead? Why is it so hard to instead suffer some difficulties and perhaps inconvenience in changing your lifestyle a little bit and doing some changes that may make it better for you in the long run? I mean, that's just a choice, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it all comes down to material desires, and lust and attachments. It's all the same reasons, for the problems. The reasons for the problems are the same reasons why we won't let go of the problems. We really don't want a solution. Not really. If the solution interferes with what we're comfortable with, or what is normal, or what I think I desire, see, what will change my life positively is not my desire.
Exactly.
Okay, you'll have to, because in everything we do, there's a compromise. You can't have it all.
Yeah.
To get one thing, you got to give up another thing. You see, and so people, because of attachment and desires and lust and so on, they're not willing to give this up. Even though the promise might be huge, they're not willing to give it up. I mean, here's a perfect example, and this is seen again and again and again. People have a heart condition, so they have to have bypass surgery. The reason for the bypass surgery, their arteries are clogged up. Why are the arteries clogged up? Because of their diet. What is their diet? Usually it's a lot of meat, a lot of animal fat. That just actually blocks up the arteries that, go to the heart. And therefore they have to have bypass surgery to go around the block. And so they're willing to just take that same risk again rather than change their diet. Okay, the doctor, he might even tell them, you got to change your diet. You got to give up meat. And you got to exercise more, And they won't do it. They would rather die. I heard it. There's a video called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Did you ever see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you should watch that one. That's a really good one. But anyway, this guy is going around. I mean, he's curing a disease that he has, and it was diet related, to some degree. And so he went on a juice fast, and he traveled across the United States. He was from Australia. Anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole story because we'll just extend the length of the video. But anyway, he was going into the places and just talking to people, and he went in this restaurant and he talked to this man who was sitting there eating, chicken fried steak. In America, that's one version of steak, where they batter the steak and kind of fry it. And it's kind of like a fried chicken with a crust on it. But it's a steak. And he's eating chicken fried steak in the restaurant with his son and a friend. And so this person, Joe Cross, starts talking to him. And he says, and the guy told Joe Cross, says, he just recently had bypass surgery. He said, well, don't you know, that's not good for you, And he says, and the guy was overweight too. And he said, I'm going to die anyway, so I'm going to die a happy fat guy.
I just missed you for a moment there, Balakhilya, but
So anyway, he said, yeah, and Joe Cross told him, this is diet, what you're eating now is not good for you. And the guy was overweight. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to die anyway, and so I'm going to die a happy fat guy. I mean, and that's the attitude. Don't try to tell me what's better. I like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just had surgery and whatever, but I'm going to die a happy fat guy. Yeah. So this person is a slave to his tongue. So intelligence is lost. It says that in Bhagavad Gita. And these people, intelligence is lost. They just become overwhelmed, with their desires, and their senses control them completely. And it just overrides the intelligence.
Yeah.
So
that's also...
That's how it is across the board, really.
But there's a promise in that. I mean, that's one thing to deal with anxiety, isn't it? Like, you have the promise of satisfaction, and it's like someone said that the hope is the last thing that leaves a person. It's, you don't want to you know that there is satisfaction out there. You know that there is a place where you can get the satisfaction, and if you can't get there, you just keep trying, and you keep trying in the ways that you know. Like,
but a lot of people don't even really think there is satisfaction somewhere, although of course it is. Again, it's said in the Vedic scriptures that you can't want something that doesn't exist.
yeah,
if you
that's true.
want it, it means it does exist somewhere. So they want satisfaction, so that's proof satisfaction does exist.
Yeah,
But after many, many attempts and failures, and people do just, you say it's the last thing to go, but it finally does go. They just give up.
yeah,
And so, it's basically due to the lifestyle we lead, which actually kills or destroys intelligence. It destroys even the desire to go to a place where there's real satisfaction, you see, which is spiritual satisfaction. It always comes back to the same point, doesn't it? I mean, we talk about it from every angle. You can start wherever you want. And it always comes back to the same place because we're spirit souls,
yeah,
And that's an eternal given. And you're not going to somehow alter that because that's eternally true. We're spirit souls. And therefore, the only satisfaction for us is spiritual satisfaction. But when we're covered by this false ego and identification with the body and the mind and the senses and the world and etc., then, we don't even relate to this spiritual concept.
yeah,
It's like, and it kills our spiritual desire, our spiritual vision, our spiritual understanding, our spiritual intelligence, etc., etc.
But is that also how is the stress between that and, man, and this question is asking you for many different directions, but we talked about jealousy a few weeks ago, but how about stress? I mean, is that something you just have to learn to deal with, or what's the way to deal with that in this world? Because
first, we got to understand that when the spirit soul comes into the material world, it comes into the world of stress.
mm,
It's called, struggle for survival. Every living entity in the material world is struggling to survive. The trees in the forest are struggling to survive. The animals in the forest are struggling to survive. The humans are struggling to survive. Everybody's struggling to survive because we're not in our natural environment, you see. So that in and of itself is stressful. I mean, the material world is a stressful condition for the soul.
yeah,
Automatically so. I mean, I just was in a zoo one time in Far East Russia. But this was a rehabilitation zoo. It wasn't like a zoo for people to come and watch the exotic animals and, take pictures. It was, an injured animal that was found in that region, the taiga, which is the forest. The animals of the taiga that were found injured, there was wolves, there was bears, there was, a Amur, the Amur leopard, which the Amur River runs through that region. It's actually the border between China and Russia, and it runs a long distance through Far East Russia. Anyway, there's a tiger that lives there. It's not a leopard, it's a tiger. It's a tiger that lives there, and that's the only place in the world it lives, and it's the Amur tiger. So anyway, there was a couple of those tigers in this zoo, and on and on. There was small animals and whatever, foxes and so on. And each cage, where they were, it had a little plaque on it that kind of gave a little information about the residents in the cage, And on each cage, it says, lifespan in the wild. I'll just give some figures. Lifespan in the wild, 10 years. Lifespan in captivity, 15 years. And another one, lifespan in the wild, 6 years. Lifespan in captivity, 12 years. Or whatever. I'm just throwing numbers now. Mm-hmm. But in every case, the lifespan in captivity was greater than the lifespan in the wild. And I thought they must have this backwards.
Yeah.
You would think that one of these wild animals would live longer in its natural environment than it would in captivity.
Yeah.
And so I went to the director of this zoo, this curator.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I saw all this, information, and you must have it wrong, right? You guys just got it backwards. She said, no, this is right, And she said the reason is because here they're not under threat to be attacked by some other animal. Mm-hmm. Number one. So there's that protection. Number one. Two, they're going to get fed every day. They don't have to worry about, am I going to survive because I catch something, or am I going to not survive because I don't catch something?
Yeah.
So every day we feed them, and we don't feed them anything special. I mean, like the carnivorous ones, they just get scraps from some place that deals with meat. And, I saw them feeding the wolves, and they were just throwing in bones and pieces of whatever, and the wolves were eating it. But the point is, all that stress was reduced. The stress of survival from hunters of, 2 legs or other legs, yeah. and the survival stress of getting food or not getting food. And then the weather stress and all these things was basically reduced.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some stress of captivity, but it was not as great as just survival stress. And so, therefore, they live longer. And I was thinking, wow, that shows you how detrimental stress is, how it really affects a person's life.
Yeah.
So stress is the killer. And, many, disease experts and health experts say stress, causes 86% of diseases,
That's crazy.
So there's some stress you can't eliminate. Right? You can't eliminate environmental stress. I mean, we try, but just being in the material world is environmental stress, So you can't eliminate that. You can't eliminate the stress of getting old, unless you die young. Then you eliminate that stress. See? And, and there's always going to be disease. It causes stress. And there's everyday, life. Just going about our business causes wear and tear and stress on the body. Yeah. So the body's designed to repair it. And on it goes. So those kind of stresses, you basically can't eliminate. But the body's kind of set up to deal with it to a certain degree, But when we add all this additional stress, like the anxiety that comes from not having enough material things, not really being materially successful. Yeah. Oh, everybody my age already has an apartment. They own their own home, or apartment. And I don't. I still am renting a place, and there's stress there. So I got to get 2 jobs instead of 1 to be able to afford to buy my own place. But then you got the stress of working 2 jobs. And then you got the stress of the mortgage, and then you lose one of those 2 jobs, and you got the additional stress of that. Or at the job, you'll put up with all kind of stuff you normally wouldn't put up with because you got to have this job to pay off the debts. And then you don't want to drive that old car because it works fine, it's functional, but you got rear-ended, and so the back's a little bit damaged, and it doesn't look very good, and so on. So I need to get a better car. Okay, so you do, and you got your payments there, and there's additional stress. And we just accumulate all this. And then my clothes, I got to upgrade, my fashion statement. And so we work harder to get more stuff there, and then if we've got enough money to do all that, which some people do, they don't have that stress, then they got other stresses. Well, what am I going to do with this money? Am I going to invest it in the stock market in this place or that place? And they do. And then they lose that, or the market crashes, Or look at the people that bought into Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and they're watching it every day, and it goes up, yay, and it goes down because somebody, said, well, I don't think this is a good thing, and it goes down, and the stress there, and then it goes up, and so you're on that volatile roller coaster, and we create all this additional stress, and then the relationship stresses, I got to act a certain way, to make this person, happy. We're always trying to make the other person happy if that's, what we want to do. And there's a stress there. Oh, they're not pleased with me. Oh, they're angry. Maybe I'm the cause. Although obviously the other person's, the one who's creating the problem. You start feeling like, well, it's my fault. Maybe I said something wrong, or maybe I'm just not a good wife, or, and the husband's angry because I'm not a good wife. And you got all that stress, Yeah. And then you have kids, and you got the stress of the kids and all their, dramas in life that they got to go through, so it just builds and builds and builds, and then you got COVID comes along. Oh my God, now you lose your job, and all those things that were dependent on that job that you bought to make you happy, or, make you a certain, acceptable person in society, or, whatever. Now there's the stress. What am I going to do now? And the stress of getting the disease, and the stress of, those controversies. Should I wear the mask? Should I not wear the mask? And you listen to these guys. They say, don't wear it. And you listen to these guys. And they say, do it. And now you're caught into this turmoil. Should I get vaccinated? Should I not get vaccinated? And, should I go to work? Should I not go to work? Oh, now I'm home working from home, and I got the stress of, no social life. And it just keeps going and going. And the more we progress as a, quote, modern society, the more the entanglement and the stress of that entanglement increases. I mean, think of a fly in a spider web. That fly was doing fine, just flying along, sitting on this nasty thing and that nasty thing, and finding great pleasure in the taste of unmentionable items. And then all of a sudden, it gets caught in the spider web, and now that fly is in great stress. And the more it moves, it gets more entangled, and the more stress and the more stress. And then here comes the spider and eats it. And that's death. So we just fly into this web of illusion that all this material life that we think is progressive is desirable and is going to make things better. And we get more and more entangled and entangled and entangled, and struggle more and more, and stress mounts up and mounts up. And finally, usually, we break down somewhere. We have mental breakdowns. Yeah. And then here comes the spider, death, and takes it all away. And we do it all again the next life.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. I mean, we do complicate things a lot. Like you said before, simple living, high thinking. That's the Vedic version of it. But that doesn't seem so easy when you're in that web to make things easy again. I mean,
well, I agree. Once you're deep in, it's hard to get out.
Yeah.
But you can change your attitude toward it all. And
well, I was thinking of that when you mentioned aging. That's a good example. Like, the aging in itself can be stressful, but because of the physical experiences you have, but the attitude towards it can not have to stress you if you know that you're not your body.
Yeah. If you know the truth, then your attitude toward all of this will change. And then, you'll just deal with the things, the web, so to speak, without being so, affected by it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll deal with it, And you can gradually, kind of just maybe take off one little strand of the web here and another strand of there, unwrap your foot and, unwrap your this hand, and gradually you're getting a little bit more free, and all of it's just the endless pursuit for happiness. I mean, really, it all is caused by the same thing, the soul's urgent need for happiness. We've talked about that many times. Why do we do all these things, and why are we thinking we need all those things? Because somehow we think this will increase our pleasure in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And although it never does, and we realize that, the mind puts forth another proposal and we buy into it. Oh, that's what I need.
The false promise,
that will
the
help.
Promise of the next thing that will, chasing
false
after that.
Promises. Yeah. So, without spiritual knowledge and spiritual direction and spiritual practice to actually amplify and make this not just a philosophy, but an experience, a reality, nothing will change, really. Nothing will change.
And
the change gets worse and worse, which it's always changing, but can we say it's changing for the better?
No, and I wanted to just briefly mention this is in Norway, so I don't know how it's around the world, but there actually I was just summarizing the numbers in Norway, how it's looking in terms of the consequences of people not feeling good inside, not finding the happiness inside, not really being too in stress and too in anxiety. It says that since March last year in Norway, and there's an increase of 36% in cases of violence against children. Chronically ill people in need of help have been neglected. Elderly, lonely people have lost human contact due to all of this situation that we have. There's an increase in stress-related illness, impaired mental health in the population in generally. That's a lot of increase in suicide. The differences between rich and poor has increased, steady increase in unemployment and bankruptcies. There's so many examples. It says that mental health helpline in Norway here, they mention that there's a 5 times increase in the number of young people that are talking about suicide. 5 times increase.
Yeah. Young people
that are losing hope.
Yeah. So you mentioned hope's the last thing to go, but it's finally going too.
It's going.
When you commit suicide or even contemplate suicide, that's an obvious sign that you've lost hope.
Yeah.
Why live? There's no hope. So, and as long as we're dependent on the material situation to give us hope and to give us satisfaction and stability, it's never going to happen, because this material world is not a place of stability, and it's, there is really no hope for happiness for the soul in the material world, really. I mean, there is no hope because it doesn't exist. The soul cannot be happy from a material source, and that is never going to be different. But people don't want to actually take spiritual life seriously because they can't. Like I say, in the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about it in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And it talks about this category of people. They're called miscreants. And that means they just go off on their own and try to make their own way in life, unguided by Scripture, unguided by absolute knowledge.
No.
See, so they reject all this, true direction, simple truths that can protect you, guide you, and ultimately make it so you're successful in achieving what you're looking for is happiness. See, so they're called daskratinas in Sanskrit, or miscreants. And it says those people, their knowledge has been stolen by illusion. And we were just talking about intelligence is stolen, away. And it said, therefore, they'll never be able to come to this platform of pious life and come to find their help and shelter in the Supreme Lord. I mean, it lays it out very, very clearly in terms that anybody can understand. It's not like you got to be some philosophical scholar to figure it what they're saying. It's so clear, you say. And also it describes that today, in the world today, 99.9% of the people are in that category. So what can be, what can be the outcome here?
Exactly. That's the results we
If
see.
a spiritual solution is truly the only solution, and 99.9% of the people don't really want that solution, then how can we expect there to be any good result?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, these are true. So you just read the fruit
Exactly.
of, this 99.9% of the population's consciousness. Increase in whatever you said, the suicide, the elderly people, the child abuse,
Yeah.
the loneliness, the neglect, and the lack of care and compassion, and the things that just keep building up and building up. The atrocities that are committed every day in the world, and you can read it in the news any day of the week. It doesn't matter whether you read it today or tomorrow or next week or next month. You're going to see basically the same thing. Different place, different details, same thing. Atrocities, unwanted, unprovoked killings.
Yeah.
I used to live in Boulder, Colorado, which is, one of the idyllic places on planet Earth. It used to be a little more idyllic before the progression, as we're talking about. I mean, when I lived there in 1974, it was really, really good, right by the mountains, but not up in the mountains. So the weather's very good. And, people there were mellow and friendly and da-da-da-da-da. And somebody just this week walked into the supermarket that I used to live 2 blocks from. And this guy wasn't happy, obviously. And he walked into the supermarket and just started killing people. And he killed 10 people, for no reason. I mean, the people didn't do anything to him. He just walked in and, a few minutes later, 10 people are dead. And, people were commenting like, this is Boulder, Colorado. I've lived here for 40 years. This has been the ideal community. Nothing like this ever happens.
Exactly.
But there's no place on the planet now where these kinds of things don't happen. The best smooth, mellow place you could imagine, all of a sudden it happens.
But that is like, I think it's even hard to, I don't think we see the link between us being stressed and not having, that seems to like, can you explain the link between the stress and that act of doing such an extreme thing? I mean, it seems like a huge leap from just being stressed to, you know what I mean? It's just like, man, you gotta be really, like, you gotta really be frustrated at your kids when you go out there and just,
Well, yeah, people are just at the breaking point, and, many times we have to blame other people, and it could be individuals, it could be a racial group, or it could be a gender group, or it could be any category of people, or it could just be people in general, just people,
yeah,
that are causing us problems. You see, it's stated again in our Vedic scriptures. There's threefold miseries in the material world. See, and one of those causes of misery for us is other living entities. Okay, other living entities. It could be mosquitoes. It could be, the dogs barking next door. It could be just humans in general. See, and so they're causing us stress, whether it's the society, which is, the cause, and the things I don't like about society, or maybe, I'm in a country that has a certain attitude toward another country, and I like the other country or the religion or whatever. I mean, it's all kinds of variables, but, I just become so disturbed by this and so angry, that I just want to hurt somebody. And the ultimate hurt is to kill somebody. When we get so angry, in a relationship, many times, a person will say, I'm going to kill you, because that's the feeling inside. I want to kill you. The more angry you are, the more you hate somebody, the more you just want to kill them. I'd like to kill all those people. And so, it just reaches a point, and it's fed now by internet and all kinds of, news stories about somebody else who did the same thing. Oh, they walked into a movie theater, at the premiere showing of some, big film, and the theater was packed, and they just smuggled their guns in there and start shooting people, or, this guy does it, another guy does it, and over years, that's, been on the front page. And people that are in these fragile mental states, it just gives them ideas and gives them impetus, and it just encourages them. The internet has all kinds of information on how to do it. And usually these people who do these kinds of things have already posted, a lot of, things about their desire and their intentions, how they're going to do it, and expect a big surprise tomorrow, and whatever. And so all that just is like, yeah, go do it. This is how you're going to be known. You're going to be somebody. And, so it's also connected with the desire to be known, to be famous, and
to be seen.
So you put all that together in one head space of a person, and they just start buying the guns and loading them up and making their plans. And, usually these guys are going in there fully ready. They got flak vests on. They got, a lot of this is happening in the States because the States is the first to go, in any direction. And if there's something going to go down, that's, ground zero, and so, it happens all the time, and it's most of it, a lot of it doesn't even get reported because it's so common, it's not even newsworthy.
Exactly.
It's like, just like, who cares? You don't even hardly notice it. If it's a real extreme one, extreme by the number of people, or, how the police came in, there's a lot of graphic video footage available, surveillance cameras, sensational stuff, then it'll get some recognition, you'll see it on the news or something. But if it's just, some not so dynamic situation, they don't even hear about it. And so it just fuels the whole thing, and people's minds are totally affected, and the consciousness and the hardness of heart keeps building up, and you can't stop it, by hiring more police, or having better surveillance cameras, or, passing gun control laws. I mean, I know people will have issue with that statement, but, if a person doesn't have a gun, they're going to do it some other way. In England, especially London, but not only London, Birmingham and Liverpool and many, many of the big cities in London, it's a statistical fact that they have the most dangerous streets in the world, because people are, so fed up with life from many different angles, racial issues and feeling whatever they're feeling. But they don't have guns. So what do? They stab people. The weapon of choice is a knife. So stabbings are common. And it's a lot of times just young kids, just young kids, very young kids, And my daughter used to live in London, and she said, when you're walking down the street and you see a group of kids, and I'm talking like 14, 15, 16, 20, turn around and go the other way. Wow. Because there's where the problem is. You don't want to deal with these people, And what are you going to do? Take knives out of society? You can't do it by eliminating the things other than the cause, And the cause is lack of God in people's lives. And the solution is add God to people's lives. As a society, each individual that does it is part of the society.
I just lost your
adding
sound
God to the
bug,
society. Yeah. But it's not being promoted as a societal solution.
The last thing I heard was you said something about knives, taking knives out of society. You think that's the solution? That's what you said.
No, I said, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
In other words, you can't solve the problem by just eliminating guns, okay, knives now, sticks. I mean, you're going to eliminate sticks, rocks.
Well, if you have pre-made food, everything, no one has to make any food, no knives, everything is just put in your microwave and wood.
Pretty soon you just got nothing, then they'll do it with their fist. What are you going to do? Cut people's hands off at birth? In other words, it's just ludicrous that you're trying to solve these problems from the direction they're trying to solve them from. It's the mental things. And, a few people are saying we're never going to solve the problem till we solve the mental conditions that create the problems. And that is not done, by counseling and so on. It may help, but the real solution is, again, a spiritual solution. The problems in life are absence of God. The solutions in life are God's presence in one's life, And this is natural for the soul. We think it's so unnatural. It's so old-fashioned. It's just, it's just not modern. We've gone beyond that. That was in the old days. Now we're more advanced than that. But this is the real eternal nature of the soul. To have God as the center of the soul's life, And so we're going further and further away from the real solution.
And we think we're making progress.
And 99% of the people are there, and it's increasing. But when you're a miscreant, a daskratina, you see, your level of mischief, so to speak, just increases in degradation. It gets worse and worse. It just gets more degraded, more mean, more, dark, the dark web.
Yeah. And people don't, I mean, you were speaking about anger, but I know a lot of people who just, I don't think they would ever do something like that extreme, but instead they turn it inward. It's so stressful to deal with every day, and just basically expectations. They just become so overstimulated and want to, I don't know, just hurt themselves by not being able to deal with all this stress and these expectations. That goes inward in a sense.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just going in instead of going out. And usually a lot of these people that do these extreme things, it goes both ways. They kill all these other people and then they kill himself.
Mm.
So they've accomplished both sides at one time.
Mm.
And it's still the same. I mean, you can say, well, these people do it this way. The reaction to all this stress and anxiety and, the pressures of society and so on, it can go externally, it can go internally, but it's the same problem.
Mm.
We're all individuals and we're all going to, react to this in one way or another way.
Yeah. See that.
But it's still the same problem, And so the Vedas say go to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't go to the root of the problem, you'll never solve the problem. I remember when I lived in Hawaii, we were surfing every day, and one of the common things that happened was you got caught on reefs. Sooner or later you'd get caught by a coral reef.
Oh, you mean like
and coral reef?
So the waves were going. I mean, for a non-surfer, I don't really. Can you explain that more?
Well, I mean, in other words, you get hit by a wave, it drives you down. There's reefs many times on the bottom. Waves usually break on reefs. That's what makes a wave happen. Comes out of deeper water, hits a shallow area, wave stands up, and so on and so on. Or you'd lose your board, and that was before board leashes, and you had to, and the waves would take your board into a very shallow area, sometimes only ankle deep, and not all that is reef. So anyway, in the process of getting your board, you'd get caught. Somehow or another, you'd get caught, and it didn't have to be a big cut, but the nature of those cuts was often they got infected with staph infection, and in the tropics, staph infection is common. And so you deal with it, you put some, antiseptic ointment on it and whatever, and it might get okay. But if you do this enough and that staph infection gets in your blood, and then it's circulating in your body, and you don't even have to get cut. It just comes up somewhere, or you might just get a little abrasion and it comes up there, whatever. So you got all these sores. And so you can keep trying to deal with that new sore, putting all the different stuff on it and the Band-Aids and maybe even to go into the extreme and don't go surfing for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. That's the extreme cure. But it's not really the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the staph infection in the blood. And so until you purify the blood, then you're never going to cure the problem. Mm. So that's the same idea. The root of the problem has to be known and has to be addressed. And so the root of the problems of life in the material world is godlessness. No God in my life. Absence of God. So if that's the problem, the solution is the opposite. Bring God into your life. Then you're addressing the problem at the root, because the soul is the eternal, loving servant of God. That's who we are eternally. I've said this every time we've talked, but it always is necessary to come back to the problem.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We're the eternal servants of God, and we're not in that relationship at all. That's not what we're doing with our lives. We're doing the exact opposite. I'm the servant of my mind. I'm the servant of my senses. I'm the servant of my husband, my wife, society, the demands of the society, the expectations of society, And so, therefore, we're still serving because we're eternal servants, but we're serving the wrong
someone
masters.
Else.
Yeah, the wrong master.
Yeah.
And so we dedicate our whole lives to serving these false masters, and it ends in catastrophe, And there's many catastrophes until the final catastrophe, of death. And that's the teaching of every great spiritual master who has ever come among the humans on planet Earth to help them. That's the message they brought.
Yeah.
And it's a message that was all too often rejected, because that's not what we want to hear.
Well, that's, yeah.
Did you ever read the book Dante's Inferno?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Oh.
But I want to. I keep saying that, but I haven't read it yet. But I was told, and I'm just speaking from what I was told. I read a little synopsis one time. The setting is people that were living in a cave, and they'd never seen anything outside the cave. And so they were born there, they lived there, they died there, their families were the same, etc. And so somebody comes from outside the cave, and, of course, caves are dark and dank and the things that caves are. Somebody came from outside in the outside world and saw their condition and started telling them about how it is outside the cave. It's a wonderful world out there, and there's light and sun and, whatever he described, flowers and, wonderful life. And they drove the person out of the cave. They were so upset by him disturbing them with this that they drove him away.
Yeah.
And I think, this was an analogy of what we're talking about now. The masters come and tell us about life outside this material world, and we drive them away. How many saints and sages have been killed in history, because of the message they delivered.
Exactly.
They were persecuted, thrown to the lions,
Exactly.
Hung, or whatever, burned at the stake, and on the story goes. Because they had a message that disturbed the status quo, disturbed the norm, that took away the false hope. You see, that you mean I'm working all my life, and you're telling me that it's for no reason? Get out of my life. Shut up.
That's what Jesus said. He says, don't build your house at the seashore in low tide, because when the high tide comes in, seek the eternal.
Yeah. That's right. So, we feel fortunate that we have this knowledge, you and I, and other people that have it, and all we're trying to do is just tell people there is something else here. There is. And, we're not saying you got to give up everything and sell all those hard-earned possessions that you've accumulated or, end your relationships. Yeah. But just start accepting this is a possibility, at least. There is a possibility that there is something better. And, it's we've talked about this before, the lockdown, which has, absorbed the world, and, the consequences that have occurred as a result. And you just read a bunch of them, I mean, basically all this was coming from in the last year, the COVID story. But it's statistically proven that the only segment of the society worldwide that has actually improved in these different categories, is the spiritually oriented people. The people who went to church, who went to the mosque, who went to, the temples. Or if they didn't go physically because of COVID restrictions, they did it online. or they had their own programs at home. They read their scriptures, be it the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. They did their practices. They bowed, they prayed, they, did their meditations. They, had a situation where God was still their active principle.
Yeah.
And they improved because it gave them more time to do it, and they had to take more shelter. You say, okay, God, please help me now. What can I do? I need some help. So they think more about God, and they find that it works. This is the statisticians. They're not religious people who are trying to prove that religion is better. It's not like me and you talking and people say, yeah, you guys are just trying to push your religion on us. These are just neutral statisticians who have looked at all the segments of different societies and come up with this result.
That's amazing.
And so that in and of itself is a testament. And why is it so hard for people to accept?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to. We're addicted. We're addicted.
And we're just, that's, again, we've said this before, that's just really, I guess you think, I don't know, but you may think that you have to change so much in your life. And you are, like you said, you are so attached to the life that you have, and you know that. And you don't dare to take that step into the unknown, because that's, maybe you're not completely happy like you are now, but at least it feels kind of safe, like you, and
it's familiar.
I guess you could compare it to sometimes I see the same concept in terms of eating meat. Like, I'm not saying, I've been eating meat for a long time, and it's, it is what it is, but now I don't, but it was just really hard for me to give up that. And some people that I talk to, they're like, no, well, I know it's not the best thing to do, but I just can't give it up. Like, and I'm gonna turn every argument to an argument that will prove it for me that that's the way forward, and then that's good. They're trying. I have an old time friend that just came to my mind. She's been a vegetarian since she was 10. Really, really young, and she turned 32. I think she had some, I don't know why really, but I think it was separation from her boyfriend or something, and she suddenly started eating meat. And she's always been the vegetarian, starting vegetarian collectives, like communal livings and all different things. Suddenly she just like started going in the other, just having the meat. And now and my point is, like, now she's posting a lot on Facebook articles that are proving to her that what she's doing is right. That meat is good. And
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, too bad.
Environmentally and health-wise.
Our minds are very clever. They can justify anything.
That's the point, yeah.
We'll find a justification for whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
So if it's very extreme, like, to me, your friend starting to eat meat after 22 years of vegetarianism, that's extreme. And to me,
No, that's like a big time meat eater, not just a little, but like she's all in on it now.
Yeah, like propagating it, promoting it.
Yeah.
But you see, she didn't have a real reason not to eat meat, other than maybe a health reason or an environmental reason, or
she was studying with me, so
point.
she's studied environmental engineering with me, so she knows about that.
Well, then, she's not really an environmentalist. Not really. She's just token environmentalist. Love your mother, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But you see, the difference is in our Bhakti Yoga teaching that we have taken into our life as our life. We have a spiritual reason not to eat meat. You see, it's not just a controversy of whether it's best for the body or not for the body or the environment or whatever. or cows are meant to be eaten, or, there's all kinds of, or they're food animals. I mean, that's just part of the natural scheme or whatever, you see. You can have all kinds of arguments and change your positions accordingly if you have those reasons to not eat meat. But if you have the reason to not eat meat because it's not pleasing to God, it's not acceptable to God, you're following His guidelines of how to live. And in His instructions, He says, do not eat meat. And on top of that, you want to please Him, and He says, don't offer everything you do to me, but don't offer me meat, fish, or eggs, because I won't accept it. And your number one priority in life is that relationship with God, then you're not going to eat meat regardless of whether it's good for your body or not good for your body. You don't even get involved in those arguments. You may get involved to kind of transition people from meat to non-meat because of health or environment or compassion for the animals, or if people are advanced enough to accept there is such a thing as karma, which your friend obviously isn't, then that's another, reason you don't want the karma from doing this. Because you got to be pretty far along in the game of spiritual advancement or otherworldly acceptance to even accept karma's real.
Yeah.
Oh, who says karma's real? You're saying that, but I don't know that. Can you prove it? Can you prove in my next life, because I eat meat now, that this is going to happen to me? See, so like I say, you got to be pretty advanced to even accept the argument of karma. But beyond all that, even if you accept the law of karma, is the relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is where it all winds up. If you keep going and going and going through the more and more real reasons and where the strength is and where the knowing is and where the absolute freedom from doubt and knowing, yes, this is the truth. That's where it all ends up, at the Supreme Lord. See? And then, no matter what, you're not going to do it, because that's important to you. And that is not only important, it's the most important, And
that becomes a guiding map for you. I mean, this is not just an example of vegetarianism. This is one example, but this goes for all the decisions that we do in life. That's the thing, we can discuss and we can debate whether to do this and find happiness there, or what's the best way to find happiness in the material world, and what's the best way to deal with stress, and which is the best mentor and psychologist, or who are you going to, but that's all. It's not deep enough, Doesn't really.
Yeah, it's not deep enough. And that's a great point you just brought up, is you can apply this in every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life, So, and life is full of decisions and choices that have to be made, And if you don't have this kind of knowledge,
exactly,
to base your choice and decision on, then you're going to base it on a bunch of falsehoods.
Yeah.
And how correct is it ever going to be? It's there's 4 defects of humans, And every human has these 4 defects, And one is the ability to make mistakes. You see, we've got a propensity to make mistakes. And with that defect, without this knowledge, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And those mistakes can be very big and very, very devastating. So we need knowledge, Another defect is we're in illusion. So making decisions and life choices with a defect of mistakes and illusion, how successful you think you're going to be?
How good a result are we going to have? No. I mean that.
I mean, that's huge handicaps.
Yeah.
And so how much we need this knowledge. We need it. It's not like just, oh, it's nice. It's like we need it.
Yeah.
And the more we recognize that need, then the more we're going to be interested in receiving this knowledge, seeking out this knowledge. What's it say in the Bible? Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. But if you don't seek, you don't find. If you don't knock, the door doesn't open. So these sayings are not just trite sayings, They're absolute sayings, Seek and you shall find. You will find, because the Lord is in your heart. He's in your heart. There's an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart. My heart, your heart, every person's heart. And the Lord is omniscient, all-knowing. When I have that seeking going on, He knows it, and He arranges it so I find. Seek and you shall find. He knows when I seek, and He gives me what I'm looking for. So it's not like arbitrary, like, oh, maybe, maybe not, because God wants us to have this knowledge. Why does He come Himself in so many various incarnations and give this knowledge? Why does He present this knowledge in Scripture? Why does He send His representatives to bring this knowledge to us? Because He wants us to have it. He doesn't want to keep us from having it, because we're His children. He loves us. He's the personification of perfect love. He's the perfect Father.
Yeah.
And He doesn't want to see us suffer in ignorance. And the only solution to ignorance, the only cure for ignorance, is knowledge. And therefore He brings the knowledge. From time immemorable, since the creation, the knowledge has been available for mankind.
And that suddenly everything seems so much easier. I mean, you can struggle and struggle, you can try and you can try, but if you just accept that, like, that, seek and you shall find. I mean, that's comforting.
Yeah.
That's comforting to me. I mean, I hope
that's right.
Everyone is listening feels the same, but that's really,
Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Approach. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. I don't know. Well, I understand it. I mean, philosophically, and we've all been less than perfect seekers, of course. We've been absorbed in our, world of material happiness, And so, it's not like we can't understand what prevents people from doing it, but at the same time, we have a solution that makes it so that resistance diminishes. That's what we got to do, is diminish the resistance. From no to no to okay. Okay.
And I've seen that
right.
so many times, just people who are, it's like, oh, okay, dragged along to meditation class, I don't really know. And then, okay, they're joining the kirtans, they're listening, they're hearing the mantras, and then, step by step.
Yeah. Big journey, small steps.
Big journey, small steps.
Yeah.
I think we should end with knocking on heaven's door.
Oh. Can do that. We can do that. Yeah, that was a very popular song back in the 70s. Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from a movie. You know that song was
Didn't
from
know that.
a movie soundtrack. Yeah, and he did this song in that movie.
Like the song is more popular than the video in the end, in the movie.
Yeah. Okay, so let me think how I'm going to do it. With Goranga, Eyeball, and maybe we'll add Nitai Gore today. What about that?
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, because I got to have some words. Goranga, Nitai Gore. 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 Haribo Goranga. Haribo Goranga. Haribo Goranga. Haribo Goranga. Haribo Goranga. Hare Bo Goranga. Hari Bo Goranga. Hare 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 Bo. Hare Bo Nitai Gaur. Nitai Gaur Hari 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 Bo. Hari Bo Nitai Gaur. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo. Goranga, Goranga, Goranga Hari Bo. Goranga, Goranga, Goranga Hari Bo. Goranga, Goranga, Goranga Haribo. Goranga, Goranga, Goranga Haribo.
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 Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo, Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo, Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo.
Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo.
Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo.
Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo.
Goranga, Haribo. Daigor, Haribo. Goranga, Haribo. Nitai, Gor, Haribo.
Goranga, Haribo. Nitaigo, Haribo. Goranga, Haribo. Nitaigo, Haribo.
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 Okay, so there you have it. Knocking on heaven's door with mantras. So that's another beautiful thing about mantra meditation. You can use any tune. You know, some people like one tune, some another, or any type of music. Some people like one style or type of music, one people like another style.
Yeah.
So you just use that medium for the mantras. And yeah. I remember there was in New Zealand back in 1970, about 72, 3, somewhere. There was a rock band in New Zealand that was the number one rock band of New Zealand. I mean, everybody knew these guys. And then they started chanting mantras. And so they started, using their musical skills and fame and so on, and introduce people to the mantras. And yeah, it was great. And they were high-level musicians. I mean, and they were rock band, and they used that style music. And yeah, first their fans were like, "What? What is this?" You know, but this was long ago before people even knew what mantras. I mean, mantras were like unknown. You know,
Yeah.
so it was a good platform to let all their followers, you know, participate in this chanting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then they maybe dropped in popularity, or people started.
Oh, probably to some degree. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not.
Some people have a real resistance to
Yeah.
to chanting, you know. As soon as you introduce anything that's connected with something spiritual,
Yeah.
they just have a big resistance.
But then that's not our goal,
But-
to be popular.
No. And the beauty is, you know, even if they hear it and they're, you know, seemingly resisting, it still, you know, works its magic. Yeah. You can't stop the magic.
No. I'm gonna.
Yeah. But yeah, people have freedom. That's one thing we respect 100% is people's freedom, you know.
Yeah.
It's God-given freedom. People have been given by God the freedom to completely turn their backs and have another life devoid of even recognition there is a supreme person, or to completely involve their life. You know, it's freedom.
And that's why we're here, right? That's why we're given the opportunity to be in a human form here in the material world, because we have that freedom to. And that's another
Yeah.
old talk.
It's another topic. Another talk.
Yeah.
Well, Ruben, it's been great. Thank you so much again. You know,
Thank you,
coming
Balakhilya.
into the little cozy cabin for another session.
Yeah, unfortunately, we turn, you know, the wrong direction, so you never get the fireplace anymore. I'm sorry for that. I'll have to switch setup someday so you get the cozy, warm fire.
It still looks cozy.
Okay.
You're looking out the window. It doesn't look so cozy out there, but inside, it looks great.
Oh man, I love winter. I was just out for. They opened the trail, the cross-country trail in the mountains here, and this was like. So I skied for like 50 kilometers. You had to climb like 1,000 meters to get up to the mountains from the ocean. It was tough, like, you know. But when you get up there, it's so beautiful. You see the mountains everywhere, sharp peaks, and it's just white, pure. Just, I don't know what to say. Beautiful, man.
Winter, yeah.
Winter.
I like
It's
winter.
the best.
It's a little bit of winter. Come back here. We're having a little snow today.
Oh yeah, that's why your internet was. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's supposed to snow tomorrow too. We're going on a hike again. So we'll be probably, if it does snow, we'll be walking in the snow, which we like. I like that. You know,
Yeah.
and everything is just fresh, and the trees are covered, and
Yeah.
you see all the animal tracks. You know, oh, there's where a deer went. There's a squirrel.
Yeah.
You know, here's a horse.
I still remember those moose beds from when you were here in Norway last time. You know, that's a rare thing. I've never seen that ever again.
Yeah.
It's the first thing.
Yeah.
First time I've seen a moose bed.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Here in the mountains, they have herds of horses.
oh, wild.
Well, yes and no. They're owned by somebody. They're not wild horses, but they're just free to go whenever and wherever they want.
Kind of like,
So we often, I mean, almost, I won't say every hike, but many hikes, we come upon different herds of horses in different areas. You know, 5, 10, 20, sometimes 15.
yeah.
And, you know, they're not wild, so they don't just stampede away when they see you. You can walk right in between them, right in the middle of them. You know, give them an apple.
Wow.
So on.
Like the domesticated. That's.
domesticated wild horses.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So if you're going to be a horse, take a birth as a horse.
In Kazakhstan.
Mountains of Kazakhstan are a good place. I'm not recommending that, but
Or a reindeer in Norway, man. Those are.
okay.
We should. Yeah. Okay. So I'll see you.
All right, Ruben.
next week.
Take care. Yeah, keep me informed about that jacket. How you like it?
I will, for sure. Yeah.
It'll be there soon, probably.
I'm looking forward. Yeah. Any day now.
Where did it come from? Where'd you get it out of?
Was it Bra Sport or something? What was it called?
In
again?
Norway?
Yes, in Norway.
Oh, okay.
There was not so many places had it. It's like, yeah, I was looking a lot to find my size and the color that I wanted. And then it's my birthday soon, so I sent a message to my mom and I said, this is a nice birthday present, wouldn't it be? She was like, oh, I see. So,
What color did you get?
I get the blue one, light blue.
Yeah, that's the color I got too.
Yeah, I know. So
All right.
thank you. But my gators are blue, so I have to get the blue jacket. Anyway, Slava tells me that you gotta go, so you first speak later.
Yeah. Travis doesn't like this. All right.
No.
Talk to you later. Haribo.
Haribo. Thank you. Thank you, Slava. Namaste. Haribo. So that's it for now. Happy to have you along today, and welcome to listening in again, probably sooner this week or else next week for our weekly sessions. So do check out our link tree to have links to YouTube if you are listening to this and would like to watch it. And you can also there find the link to Patreon, where you can contribute to the podcast so that we can reach out to more people, and you can get access to the videos live streamed as we are recording them. So yeah, see you soon again. Remember to stay true to yourself and dare to break trail.